military order?
Yeah.
A military order is a Christian religious society of knights. The original military orders were the Knights Templar, the Knights Hospitaller, the Order of St. James, Order of Calatrava, Calatrava, and the Teutonic Knights. They arose in the Middle Ages in association with the Crusaders, or the Crusades.
It seemed like somewhere I had studied once upon a time that the knights was under order of the queen. Seemed like.
Well, they became under the order of France.
Yeah, because they had the Pope at that time or something like that for Isabella and Ferdinand.
No, this was like 1600s.
It was after the fact. You said France?
Mm-hmm.
What, Napoleon Bonaparte?
This was before Napoleon Bonaparte.
I gotta go look now. I gotta go see. This long.
And the Napoleons, that's not the real French. Those are the people that were put up there to act like they're the real French. Those are the real French. See right here it says
can I read that paragraph right there?
Says the organization became a military religious order under its own papal charter, charged with the care of the defense of the Holy Land. Following the conquest of the Holy Land by Islamic forces, the Knights operated from Rhodes, right? Like Rhode Island, over which they were sovereign, and later from Malta, where they administered a vassal state under the Spanish Viceroy of Sicily. The Hospitallers were one of the smallest groups to briefly colonize parts of the Americas. They acquired 4 Caribbean islands in the mid-17th century,
Wow.
which they turned over to France in the 1660s.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's all connected.
And in just that one little paragraph, how much did they cover?
They're still in function today. Right? They're the military for the church. So we see them now acting, as the Red Cross. So, they got their military, we got our military under the Red Crescent. That's why it's called the Red Cross, Red Crescent Federation.
Islam. I know we're all part on the Red Crescent now. That's our military, so to say.
It's on.
Did you see up in that paragraph where it said that they was up under Islamic?
They were fighting the Islamic states.
Wow. So
and they lost and then they came back and won again.
So that's where the Red Cross got its start. And that's what the Red Cross represent.
Yeah, it's a military order. That's the reason why if there is war and you have on the badge, either the Red Cross or the Red Crescent.
Who knew?
We knew. Brother Mosley, didn't we know?
Islam, yeah.
Islam. That's why we've been instituting missionaries, Islam.
I have something here very fast. Red Cross is the name used in countries under nominally Christian sponsorship, or Red Crescent, adopted on the insistence of the Ottoman Empire in 1906, is name used in Muslim countries, Islam.
Islam.
But see, dealing with the Ottoman Empire, then that goes into the Byzantine area, right?
No, that it's this era in time now. The Ottoman Empire is the Moorish Empire. We never stopped being the Moorish Empire.
So all this is still falling, or is it dictating the Moorish empires? Not empire, but empires.
Now, when you say is it all this dictating, can you explain?
Derive where the Moorish empires derive from or to.
I'm not understanding your question. Could you re-ask it in a different way? Maybe I can understand it.
The upbuildment, maybe the upbuildment of the Moorish Empire, how they come into existence, how they grew, or everything that the Moorish Empire was hidden behind. How about that one?
The Moorish Empire, we were already here. Remember, the Moorish Empire, we were here in the beginning.
Islam.
Islam, brother Barzo, you had your hand raised.
Islam. I was gonna say, I've been trying to trace back all the way to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, and the closest I've gotten is the song, the Sanjay. Is that something that you are familiar with?
What is that, brother?
The Sanjay was where the Almoravid dynasty came out of with I'll pull them up. I got it here. Empire dominated by the Sanhaj Berbers in modern day Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria. So not Sanjay, but Sanhaj. In southern Spain, its capital was Marek. The empire had its beginning with the Muslim cleric Abd Allah ibn Isan, who wanted to bring about a pure form of Islam. Among the Sanhaj Berbers, Letmuna or Lamtuna Gadula Masufa in 1039, Yasin declared jihad on the Sanhaj for practicing an impure Islam. Like Sunnite Sanhaj practice and Islam mixed with indigenous religious belief. Islam?
It's Islam. So that's a fraction of the families under the banner of Islam. But remember, Islam means peace, right? So the first peace giver that we see in the Bible was who?
Melchizedek,
Melchizedek. Islam.
King of Salem, the King of Peace.
That's right.
Islam.
Melchizedek. Islam. So that this was before, you know, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his, you know, great grandfather. Islam. You wanna continue reading?
Like the Sunite, the Sanhaj practice in Islam mixed with indigenous religious belief. Jason was able to convert powerful Sanhaj Berber leaders, Yahya ibn Umar and Abu Bakr, both sons of the Lamtuna king. They forged a powerful unified Sanhaj Berber army. Yasin made use of black slave soldier. The latter made up to a 2,000 special unit of his personal bodyguards.
My bad, Brother Barnesdale. I was talking about Brother Sydney to continue to read what's on the screen.
Islam.
Islam. Yeah, my bad. My bad.
This brother sitting there by way of North Carolina. Governor John Hayes of the Massachusetts Bay Colony led 100 people to Hartford in 1636. He and Puritanian minister Thomas Hooker are often considered the founders of the Connecticut colony. Hooker delivered a sermon to his congregation on May 31st, 1638 on the principles of government.
Pause. Thank you. It says that he delivered a sermon to his congregation on the principles of government, not the principles of, I'm going to read you the Bible and tell you that you're going to become rich one day if you just, give your money, right? Not this feel-good message. Because the church was about delivering principles of government. It still is. That's why the church has been able to function the way that it has, because it is a government. We have to begin to learn how to condition our minds to understand that the church is a government. Same thing with the Moorish Temple of America. It's a government.
Islam.
So when, they say to us, well, the church is just, a 501c3 or no, the church is a government.
Sister K. Glover, may I say something?
Islam.
That's why the Koreans flourish. I grew up in the United Methodist Church, and once they took that message, they weren't really functioning here. And the United Methodist Church is not really a church. It was born out of a brotherhood where several different entities that could not have a voice came together and created united methodologies,
Mhm.
which created the United Methodist Church. So when we functioned within that, I guess, system, everything was done based off of Robert's Rules of Order, the way
That's
it was
right.
set up. It was based off of conferences. It was based off of so many other types of governmental structures that when it became evident that they were not flourishing here, they took that ideology out to which they call missionaries,
Mhm.
into other lands and other places. When wars happen, because typically when every war happens, it takes that country at least about 20 years to so-called rebuild their economy. But their economy is always tied to America.
Yep.
So Vietnam, 20 years later, all of a sudden they can function, but they have to function off of the American system. When I
Yep.
lived in Japan and was able to study in their libraries, their telling of the history is always based off of economics
Mhm.
and not so much religion, but the infusion of religion and economics.
Mhm.
So when they fought Japan, Japan could never have a standing army outside of Japan. So while I was there and the 9/11 happened, they could not fight outside of Japan. And so Japan, almost like they licked their tongue at America, because remember, you took our emperor away from us, you
Yep.
took our army away from us, you took all
Mhm.
of the stuff away from us. So we could not defend ourselves except on our soil. And they came up with a lie of Pearl Harbor because it's an inside job. America doesn't do anything
Islam.
without there being some preemptive situation to get to the minds of the people. And most often it happens in a so-called governmental structure. They have North Korea, South Korea. When I was there and we began to study, those Asian nations still fight with each other, but they don't fight openly with each other.
Yep.
They fight among each other, but not, once again, openly. So when I was there in North Korea, South Korea and Japan still have a beef with each other. China and Japan still have a beef with each other, for lack of a better word, beef. However, the Southeast Asian nations still have to pay homage to mainland Asian countries.
Mhm.
So when the United Methodist Church comes and it's full of Koreans, they're not just coming because there's no wisdom behind it. When we see large developments of Koreans in certain places, the economics is drained from our community because it's mostly stuff like hair and little grocery stores and all those kind of things like that.
Mhm.
But the church is the place to set it up,
Yep.
and they buy the business from the church
Yep.
because no one's employing you anywhere. You don't have to learn the language. You don't
Mhm.
have to learn a system because it's all coming from your church. So you
Yep.
can quote unquote say it's God, but we know that it's not. Islam.
Islam. That's right. They, like I said, it's all commercial. Everything is based on a commercial system. The very first society was built on a commercial system of agriculture. So in order for us to get to the next level where we're supposed to be in our society, we have to get on that thought. We have to get out of the thought of this spook, God thing that we've been so attached to. We're so attached of this spook God thing that we don't understand that we are Allah and man as one. Many of us believe that there's going to be some spirit being that's going to come down out of the clouds who's going to save us. They've set everything up, and all those who begin to awaken and, first thing they do is, I don't want anything to do with religion, of course, because, that's the other part about it. Once we awaken, for the majority of us, we don't want anything to do with religion, because that was the same thing that they used to enslave us. So now when we hear about the Moorish Temple of America, and you have those who's Moors, that's brothers and sisters that's putting us back into another form of slavery by saying things like, oh, Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't set up a religious institution. That's a lie. That's how the Farmers Union was created. That's how the United States of America was created. It was created because of religion. They were able to even come over here because of religion. That's why they say, every time they would say, in the name of our Lord. Every single time that they established something, it was always in the name of our Lord. Why? The reason why is so that they would not personally take the hit. Throw it on the church. Same thing with all of the fathers in the church who molested all those children. None of them go to prison. You know why they didn't go to prison? They didn't go to prison because they said they did it on the behalf of the church. So all the church had to do was write a check and give a public apology. Like, oh, my bad. We didn't mean to molest you, but
Islam, is that where the term "in God we trust" comes
that's right. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's used, in God we trust. But also we can look at the flip side of in God we trust, meaning our trust that we have since time immemorial, right? Which is our family trust.
So on the family trust, is that something that we create on our own, right?
I'm talking about the trust that our forefathers and foremothers created. That's the trust I'm talking about. But yeah, your family estate is something that we create, correct?
The family trust of our forefathers. Can you elaborate on that?
It's the same trust that Prophet Jesus was operating under, Prophet Muhammad was operating under. The same trust that Ruth the Moabitess and Boaz was operating under. Same trust that Adam was operating under. The same trust that the children of Israel, or the wards of Israel, because remember, children means that these are wards of Israel. It's another reason why they made Israel, state of Israel. So now that the ward, the quote unquote wards of the state of Israel can reap all of the benefits. Because we know that that's not Israel over there. Nothing that is in the Bible when it comes to the infrastructure and the agriculture that's mentioned in the Bible is in the state of Israel. And if it is, it's been imported. So look at all the agriculture that's in the state of Israel. It's imported, but it never flourishes. Again, we can go back to the palm trees that they planted in Israel 20 years ago that's already died out. But the palm trees that's here in Zone 7, Memphis, Tennessee, they're native. They don't die out. Islam.
Islam.
All right. The principles of government, and it influenced those who wrote the fundamental orders of Connecticut. The fundamental orders were adopted by the Connecticut Colony Council on January 24th or January 14th, 1639. The fundamental orders describe the government set up by the Connecticut river towns, setting its structure and powers. Later that year, the fundamental orders may have been drafted by Roger Ludlow of Windsor, the only trained lawyer. Here's the barristers. The only trained lawyer living in Connecticut in the 1630s. They were transcribed into the official record by the Secretary Thomas Wells. The Reverend John Davenport and the merchant Theophilus Eaton led the founders of the New Haven colony, which was absorbed into the Connecticut colony in 1660s. Again, the colonies were companies. They were corporations. Islam.
Islam.
All right. Let's get to New Haven colony. Again, here's the flag again. New Haven colony was a small English colony in North America from 1637 to 1664, primarily in parts of what is now the state of Connecticut, but also with outposts in modern day New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. Again, these are companies. The history of the colony was a series of disappointments and failures. The most serious problem was the New Haven colony never had a charter giving it legal title to exist. They weren't even supposed to be doing business. It's a bootleg company doing business under the table, not paying tribute to the king, but not paying tribute to the crown. The larger, stronger colony of Connecticut to the north did have a charter, and Connecticut was aggressive in using its military superiority to force a takeover. See, these were company fights. New Haven had other weaknesses as well. The leaders were businessmen and traders, but they were never able to build up a large or profitable trade because their agricultural base was poor. Farming the rocky soil was difficult, and the location was isolated. New Haven's political system was confined to church members only, and the refusal to widen it alienated many people. Oliver Cromwell recommended that New Haven colonists all migrate to Ireland or to Spanish territories that he planned to conquer. But the Puritans of New Haven were committed to their new land. One by one in 1662 to 1664, the towns joined Connecticut colony until only 3 were left, and they submitted to Connecticut in 1664. It then became the city of New Haven. from which other modern towns in the New Haven region were later split off. So they didn't even have a charter from the crown to even function. It was some renegades just doing whatever they wanted to do. Province of New York. The province of New York, 1764 to 1776, was a British proprietary colony and later royal colony of the northeast coast of North America. As one of the middle colonies, New York achieved independence and worked with others to found the United States. In 1664, during the Second Anglo-Dutch War, the Dutch province of New Netherland in America was awarded by Charles II of England to his brother James, Duke of York. James raised a fleet to take it from the Dutch, and the governor surrendered to the English fleet without recognition from the Dutch West Indies Company that had authority over it. The province was renamed for the Duke of York as its proprietor. England seized de facto control over the colony from the Dutch in 1664 and was given de jure sovereign control in 1667 in the Treaty of Breda. And again, the Treaty of Westminster 1674. It was not until 1674 the English common law was applied in the colony. The colony was one of the middle colonies and ruled at first directly from England. When the Duke of York ascended to the throne of England as James II, the province became a royal colony. When the English arrived, the Dutch colonies somewhat vaguely included claims to all of the present United States of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and Vermont, along with inland portions of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine, in addition to eastern Pennsylvania. Much of this land was soon reassigned by the crown, leaving the territory of the modern state of New York, including the valleys of the Hudson and Mohawk rivers, and future Maine, in addition to eastern Pennsylvania. Much of this land was soon in future Vermont. The territory of Western New York was disputed with the indigenous Iroquois Confederacy. Remember, the Iroquois Confederacy is what? The six what? Tribes. And all disputed between the English and the French from their northern colonial province of New France, modern Eastern Canada. The province remained an important military and economic link to Canada throughout its history. Vermont was disputed with the province of New Hampshire to the east. The Revolutionary New York Provincial Congress of Local Representatives assumed the government on May 2nd, 1775, declared the province of the state of New York in 1776, and ratified the first New York Constitution in 1777 during the ensuing American Revolutionary War. The British regained and occupied the strategic port and harbor of New York town in September 1776, using its military and political base of operations in British North America. Though a British governor was technically in office, much of the remainder of the upper part of the colony was held by rebel patriots. British claims in New York were ended by the Treaty of Paris, with New York establishing its independence from the crown. The final evacuation of all of New York by the British Army was followed by the return of General George Washington's Continental Army on November 25th, 1783, and a grand parade and celebration, right? Because when you claim your sovereignty, you have a grand parade and celebration, right? The Moorish parade and the Moorish ball. Islam. All right, this is the last one we're going to get to this evening, and then we'll pick back up into these keywords next week. Province of New Jersey. The province of New Jersey was one of the middle colonies of colonial America and became the U.S. state of New Jersey in 1783. The province had originally been settled by Europeans as part of New Netherland, but under English rule after the surrender of Fort Amsterdam in 1664, becoming a proprietary colony. The English renamed the province after the bailiwick of Jersey. In the English Channel, the Dutch Republic reasserted control for a brief period in 1673 to 1674. After that, it consisted of two political divisions, East Jersey and West Jersey, until they were united as a royal colony. In 1702, the original boundaries of the province were slightly larger than the current state, extending into two parts of the present state of New York until the border was finalized in 1773. The province of New Jersey was originally settled in 1610s as a part of the colony of New Netherland. The surrender of Fort Amsterdam in September 1664 gave control over the entire Mid-Atlantic region to the English as part of the Second Anglo-Dutch War. The English justified the seizure by claiming that John Cobart, an Italian under the sponsorship of the English king, Henry, had been the first to discover the place, though it was probably to assert control over the profitable North Atlantic trade. Director General of New Netherland, Peters, Stuyvesant, unable to rouse a military defense, relinquished control over the colony, and was able, in the Articles of Transfer, to secure guarantees for property rights, laws of inheritance, and freedom of religion. After the surrender, Richard Nichols took the position of deputy governor of New Amsterdam, and the rest of New Netherland, including those settlements on the west side of the North River, Hudson River, known as Bergen, and those along the Delaware River that had been New Sweden. Islam. So in your time, go ahead and check out and do more research on these colonies. All right, I want to get into going back to Connecticut, right? Because Connecticut, it talked about the Pequot Wars. Talked about the Pequot Wars. And then from there, we went into Harvard University. And Harvard University coming out with this piece demonstrating that they were a part of slavery, and the first slave being, his name being the Moor, and that the Moor most likely was a slave, was captured in the Pequot War, right? Something that was very interesting was something very interesting that they mention in the Harvard findings was this slave, right? This slave, it said that year, Force appeared with the U.S. Rep. John Lewis of Georgia, the late civil rights leader, to unveil a plaque at Harvard's Wadsworth House that commemorates 4 enslaved people, right? Enslaved because they know that we can't be slaves because we're not Slavs, named Titus Venus Juba, right? Juba. Now, the closest thing I was able to find about Juba is in the Bible, in Genesis. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4, and this is going to be the King James Version. And I want to go down to verse 16. It says, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. So he was on the east side. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. And until Enoch was born, Irad, and Irad begat, like that is Mehuel, and Mehuel begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begat Lamech. And Lamech took into him 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Ada bare Jabal. He was the father of such, the father as such dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. So this means that he was rich, right? He dwelt in tents. So this means he had houses and he had cattle, right? So he had bread. And his brother name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ, right? And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of such as handle the harp and organ. But who was right? So he's considered to be the one who created music, right? So he's really like So Juba, the L is really like Juba L, because remember he is Asiatic. So we know that Asiatics are what? Angels, right? So this is Juba L, and he was the L who created music, or the father of music, right? And Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. Now, Tubal Cain, does anyone know who Tubal Cain was? Who was Tubal Cain?
Islam, the first blacksmith, I think.
That's right. That's right, Brother A. Griffinell. He was the first blacksmith. He was the first blacksmith. Tubal-Cain or Tubal-Cain is a person mentioned in the Bible, Genesis 4:22, known for being the first blacksmith. He is stated as the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron, a descendant of Cain. He was the son of Lamech and Zillah. Tubal-Cain was the brother of Naamah and half-brother of Jabael and Jubael. The Israeli, Brother Barnesdale, help me out with this. Is that Kibbutz Tubal?
Mm-hmm. Kibbutz Tubal
Is named after him. All right, this is an international community in Israel. Tubal-Cain, when we talk about Tubal-Cain and him being the father of all brass, right? And basically the father of masonry. We can go to let's see. Get some information, more information about Tubal-Cain.
He was deceitful and wrong. That's what he was also.
He was the what?
He was wrong or deceitful. Or deceived his father to shoot his grandfather or something like that. With an arrow.
Now I want y'all to look at this picture, right, before we get into it, right? What's funny is, okay, so this is supposed to be Tubal-Cain right here. And you see you got you see the red, white, and the blue. You got our red and white striped pants. And then you see the blue, kind of looks like blue iron. But then look right next to him, this brother right here who has the scales in his hands. Not only does he have the scales in his hands, he also has on a turban with feathers.
He's a king, Islam.
And he has the pendant connected to the feathers. Now, who did we see with that same demonstration on?
Prophet know what you, Ali, Islam.
Islam. We seen Prophet Noble Drew with that same demonstration on. The turban with his pendant and his feathers. Because what this is demonstrating to us is that Tubal-Cain really was the one who was working on the behalf of the noble. This is the noble right here.
Right.
Islam. This brother sitting here in North Carolina.
Islam.
What did those scales that the noble is holding represent?
Justice.
Also, the wages of war and the wages of sin, as far as much as Tubal Cain was involved in, say weapons and all of those arts. It's good to see those scales as the brother standing next to him in a turban, and he's the king.
Islam. He was the one who was administering the justice.
Islam.
Islam. Much of Freemasonry's core symbolism can be traced directly to Hebrew and Christian teachings and texts, given that speculative masonry took shape in Europe during the 18th century. See, Europe was really old when it came to, Europe was really new. The new kids on the block when it came to masonry. Right here, we see the true Mason was the noble. And then you also see they got long sleeves on. All right, they got on long sleeves. Because you know, is that how they always try to show us and depict us with no clothes on over here? Notice also his guard has jewels on the trim of it.
This is a nice study because and then all the gold thread, and then up to the far right we see a dog with a collar, and that's so modern day Islam.
That's right, Islam. Yeah, a dog with the collar. Did you see how his garb is, or his robe is trimmed with jewels? Similar to the robe of the Levites.
Oh, he's a master craftsman.
Islam.
That's on that breastplate.
Yeah, he's learning to become a master.
Islam, under the tutelage of
the noble.
The noble Islam.
Under us. Teaching them the weights. Teaching them the economy. It says, during the 18th century, a time when Christianity in its many forms was central to daily life, it is easy to understand how it came to be. Brethren at the time sought to improve themselves and their community through ritual, and were better to adopt these lessons than from scripture. While the rituals of Freemasonry and its many appendant bodies have evolved over the centuries, some still leverage Judeo-Christian sources as a means to convey universal truths. Stories and symbols from the Bible were widely accepted as conveying Messianic values that guide us in thought and action. However, it is also essential to note that fraternity welcomes all men into its ranks, no matter their race, religion, or creed. Tubal Cain, among the figures adopted from the Bible of Freemasonry, is Tubal Cain from Genesis 4:22, known as the first blacksmith. Tubal Cain is a descendant of Adam and Eve and the son of Lamech. and Zillah. While it is not known when Tubal-Cain emerged in the ritual of speculative masonry, the famous Masonic author and historian Albert Mackey referred to him in his book as a lexicon of Freemasonry, as the first to work in iron and brass. In this passage, Mackey wrote that Tubal-Cain introduced many arts into society which tend towards its improvement in civilization. Tubal-Cain is the Vulcan of the pagans and is thought to have been closely connected with ancient Freemasonry. Farber says that all the most remarkable ancient buildings of Greece, Egypt, and Asia Minor were ascribed to Cabarine or Cyclopean masons. The descendants of Vulcan do Vulcan, the god Vulcan, or Tubal-Cain. Oliver says in After Times, Tubal-Cain under the name of Vulcan and his Cyclops figured as workers in metals and inventors of the mysteries. And hence it is probable that we have the Hierophant of a similar institution in this day, copied from the previous system of Seth and applied it to the improvement of schemes more adapted to the physical pursuits of the race to which he belonged. Because of Tubal-Cain's significant contributions to the science of craftwork, Mackey believes he can be looked upon as our Masonic ancestor. So here we have the Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple of America, chapter 5. And chapter 5, it reads, after the feast, the homeward journey, the missing Jesus, the search for him, his parents find him in the temple. He goes with them to Nazareth, symbolic meaning of carpenter's tools. The great feast of the Pasch was ended, and the Nazarenes were journeying toward their homes. And they were in Samaria. Mary said, where is my son? No one had seen the boy. And Joseph sought among their kindred who were on their way to Galilee, but they had seen him not. Then Joseph sought among their kindred who were on their, I read it. Then Joseph, Mary, and a son of Zebedee returned and sought through all Jerusalem, but they could find him not. And Mary asked the guards, had they seen Jesus, a little boy, about 12 years old? What happens when you turn 12, Morris? What happens when you are 12-year-old little boy?
Puberty.
Puberty. So puberty is when you go from being a child to adulthood, right?
But that nurturing stage is over.
It's like a rites of passage.
Rites of passage. So we can say when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spake as a child, I acted as a child. But then when I became a man, I put away those childish things. Islam, Brother Mosiel, you said rites of passage. What's some of the rites of passages at the age of 12?
Islam, say again. What are some of the passages?
That's right. What are some of the rites of passages at the age of 12?
Oh, well, we offer schooling is different. We just become boys.
We become boys?
Well, in a different stage, like preteen. That actually that age is what we call preteen, and so it's like a right before coming to our own.
Okay. Anyone else?
From 6th grade to 7th grade, or graduate, Go ahead.
Islam. Anyone else? What happens when we come the age of 12? What does the age of 12 represent?
Does it also represent completion as far as having grown the first cycle?
That's right.
That sign?
That's right. Completion.
Completion.
Completion of being able to sit in every house of the 12 zodiac.
Islam.
Islam. So at the age of 12, Jesus left his parents, right? Because he's completed his cycles. The guards replied, yes, he is in the temple now disputing with the doctors of the law. And they went in and found him as the guards had said. And Mary said, Jesus, why do you treat your parents thus? Lo, we have sought 2 days for you. We feared that some great harm had overtaken you. So 2 days would have been 48 hours. And Jesus said, do you not know that I must be about my Father's work? My Father's work. Right? We see Tubal-Cain being about his Father's work. Islam. Because he's under the direction of his Father.
And this red, white, and blue. This is so ironic.
Islam. So he didn't, he's not the father of blacksmith. He's a son of a blacksmith.
Got it. So this would be Lamech to the left.
This would be us, the nobles.
Islam.
Islam, teaching our sons. He's a slave. Putting him to work. Islam.
Okay, that's why he has on those colors. Significant.
That's right.
Go under the house of the noble by his overcoat.
And Jesus said, do you not know that I must be about my Father's work? But he went round and pressed the hand of every doctor of the law and said, I trust, right? Because the doctors of law was in trust with Jesus, remember? When Jesus was a child and he was on the run with his family. Jesus entrusted, his family entrusted the doctors of the law with his presence that the Magi brought him. The frankincense, the myrrh, and the gold. They brought a caravan. That was a lot of frankincense, myrrh, and gold. You can't run with all that.
So they had a field day at one time.
They had a field day with Jesus' trust. He said, I trust that we meet again. And then now he went forth with his parents on their way to Nazareth, and they reached their home. He brought with Joseph as a carpenter, right? Because again, Joseph was Jesus' father. Jesus' father was a carpenter. So the union that Jesus was in a union of carpenters.
That's right.
One day, as he was bringing forth the tools for which he said, these tools remind me of the ones we handle in the workshop of the mind, where things were made of thought and where we build up character. We use the square to measure all our lines, to straighten out the crooked places of the way, and make the corners of our conduct square. We use the compass to draw circles around our passions and desires, to keep them in the bounds of righteousness. We use the axe to cut away the knotty, useless, and ungainly parts and make the character symmetrical. We use the hammer to drive home the truth and pound it in until it is a part of every part. We use the plane to smooth the rough, uneven surfaces of joint and block and board that go to build the temple for the truth. The chisel, lime, the plummet, and the saw all have their uses in the workshop of the mind. And then this ladder with its trinity of steps, faith, hope, and love, on it we climb up to the dome of purity and life. And on the 12-step ladder, we ascend until we reach the pinnacle of that which life is spent to build the temple of perfected man. Temple of perfected man. So Jesus went into the temple to learn how to utilize these tools. He went into carpentry. He went to learn the same lessons that his father already knew. It was through these lessons that Jesus was able to overcome the resurrection, because he already lived the life. But how do you get from being under the resurrection? How do you become redeemed? Because learning how to utilize all these tools, right, within the workshop of the mind, because in the mind, we were given all these tools, but we wasn't taught how to utilize them. Because when we begin to square and to measure our lines, to straighten out the crooked places of the way and make the corners of our conduct square, now we're able to be unmolested. When we draw these circles around our passions and desires and keeping those bounds, now we can't be labeled with those badges of slavery anymore. We've gone back under our own vine and fig tree by going into our own union, just like Brother Man Jesus did. He went into the union of carpentry with his father to build up temple of the perfected man. You notice that perfected man is upper and lowercase? Isn't each of our bodies considered to be a temple? Brother Man Jesus is building on these same principles that we're supposed to be building on every single day. To be upright, independent, and fearless. Islam. So again, these tools are the same tools that Tubal Cain learned how to use to take over his father's business. That's how the pale-skinned nations of Europe was able to come into power. See, when the father wasn't doing this, drawing circles around his passions and desires, to keep in the bounds of righteousness. Now the son was able to come in and learn how to use more of the tools. Because if you was a blacksmith, then you couldn't learn how to create music. You couldn't be a musician. If you was a musician, you couldn't be a carpenter. If you was a carpenter, you couldn't count money. But when the children of the original Europeans learned how to use all of these tools at the same time, here comes the takeover. Temple of perfected man. That means that they sat in every zodiac and studied and watched and studied and watched and studied and watched. And when they had studied and watched long enough, And you got this slave and that slave and that slave and that slave, and they're all coming together. And this one is saying, well, I learned how to do this. Another one's saying, I learned how to do this. And they're having meetings, secret meetings. And they say, we're going to create a plan. And because we sat and studied how our fathers act and react under each of the zodiac, we know that it's going to last for about 400 years that we'll be able to be in power. And then after that, the true heirs of our fathers will wake up out of the great what is known as the great amnesia. They said we got knocked in our head like Hiram Beth 3 times. Faith, hope, and love. 3 times. Buried in the shadow. So that's what we're experiencing right now. We're experiencing us coming up out of the sleep and the slumber, the shadows. We're in the great awakening period. So we have to fashion ourselves to not only read about Moorish science and talk about what Prophet Nawawi Ali did, and talk about what our ancestors did and how great they were and how noble they were, but we have to actually conquer these tools to become the temple of perfected man. Islam, I continue, it's like I continue to hear more and more of brothers and sisters lately saying, so what do we do? Brother Claudio came on, he asked the same thing. What do we do? That's been the question lately that I've been getting lately. So what are we going to do? The church has already said that they don't have any authority and power over us. These people have already showed us that this is a shadow government. It's not really real. Only in the minds who believe. Someone was saying something.
I was bearing witness also about how they know who we are coming up out of what they call slavery and what we talked about the Reconstruction era. If we did all of that in that short amount of time with all that they had already done, they already know true manifestation of us. It's us who have to become more civilized and understand who we are at this point, at this particular point. When you mentioned the 400 years, is so indicative of right now why all of the weed is being legalized and it's being infiltrated to dumb you down and get you addicted to something. And all of this keeping us away from each other is a design, but it's not working fast enough. It truly isn't.
Yeah,
If we see what is happening to us, that we are mastering the internet. Remember when the record labels used to have all of the rappers under
mhm,
their tutelage, under their thumb with Murder Inc. and this one, and they had come up with all of the names. And then the internet came, and somebody like a Soldier Boy and all the others, they got rid of the record labels and
yep,
started to depend on one another to support one another. The record, all of the music coming out of the cars because they weren't allowed to go into these other places. They created their own clubs,
that's
created
right.
their own spaces. And now, where do you see the most violence happening? In
Mhm,
Atlanta, where it really is what they say is the capital of the South.
mhm,
So it's by design what's happening now, and that we are awakening to who we truly are. It's on a negative level, but this Moorish science teaching is so important for us to get to break down language to understand how we must live, how we must build from wherever we are, to go from week to week, understanding a teaching that is timeless. Islam.
Islam. That's right. That's definitely right. Us, being able to grow and develop, and they are using, it's like they throwing everything at us. Every time we turn around, it's something else. But, they have dumbed down society so much that, it only grabs our attention for a split second. And then we off to the next thing. But one of the things that um, they can't seem to get us off of, no matter how much they put out here, is this truth of who we are and learning and knowing who we are, being ourselves. Like once we wake up to that, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. I mean, I've watched a lot of Moors come and go. Now, I watch a lot of Moors come and go, but one thing I can say about Moors when they come and go, they actually go into other schools of thought because they're just searching
Keep
and
growing
seeking
and develop. Grow and develop. Islam.
Islam. Right? Because we're not supposed to necessarily stay here. Once once you graduated to a certain level, it's then time for you to really go out and carry the message as the angels, as the angels of light, being able to penetrate the shadows. I'm not saying that we're not supposed to be in the Moorish Science Temple of America. What I'm saying is we're not supposed to stay here.
Don't be stuck. Angels are angels. Angels got missions for their Lord to do. Islam.
Wow. Don't get stuck. I look at a lot of the elders in the temple. My main prayer is that I don't get stuck in olden age. I don't ever want to get stuck because once you get stuck, you stop growing, you stop developing. Anything that does not grow is dead. Islam. So Moors continue to stay on point, continue to stay prayed up. They got something new they got something out new, so they say, for the masses. Right, it's called the monkeypox. The monkeypox.
Not the monkeypox.
The monkeypox. Monkeypox is a rare disease that is caused by infection with the monkeypox virus. Monkeypox virus belongs to the orthopox virus genus in the family of, just something else they done came up with.
Man-made, made up. In the
Something
lab,
else.
creating something. Like the Sister Muhammad El said, trying to slow us down, dumb us down, and they can't. They can't stop us now, y'all. Praise Allah.
Praise Allah. Every time you turn around, it's something else. You notice that they always come up with these diseases in Africa. Man, these Africans, we got to start looking at these countries because they let these people come in and just do anything.
Indeed, that's why.
Cameroon, Central Africa Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo, Liberia, Nigeria, Congo, Sierra Leone. Man, look, all these are part of the problem. These are the same ones who came over here. I don't think that they knew. These are the same exact ones who came over here wanting to be free from the rule of their kings and queens, wanting to own land, couldn't own land because our land is heirs property. These are the same nations, these are the same countries, y'all. Don't be confused. It said monkeypox was let's see, monkeypox outbreak in Europe. Here it is. Rare monkeypox. Now you see who getting it, right? Because I don't know nobody in the hood that got monkeypox.
Pale people.
I know a lot of people in the hood got other diseases, but I ain't heard nobody with monkeypox. Oh.
That's the one got the monkey gene.
They said the outbreak in the United Kingdom, Portugal, Spain, and other European countries. The outbreak is small so far, about 80 suspected cases in England, Spain, and Canada, as well as Portugal, Sweden, Italy, and France. These are pretty much the same countries that was a part of the Paris Treaty. 2 suspected cases have also been reported in the U.S., but health officials have little clue where people caught the monkeypox virus, and there's concern that the virus may be spreading through the community. What community? Not our community. Y'all stay woke, stay awakened. Then already got the vaccine. They already got the vaccine for the monkeypox.
Islam, they got the patent on it too.
Man, we can't make this stuff up, y'all. Monkeypox vaccination begins. Can the global outbreaks be contained? Some countries have begun to use smallpox vaccines to protect people exposed to the monkeypox virus, but researchers see challenges ahead. That look like Elon Musk. Hey, global monkeypox cases continue to rise. As global monkeypox cases continue to rise, public health officials and researchers are questioning whether the current outbreaks can be contained. The WHO has said that the situation is unlikely to escalate into a full-blown pandemic, but more than 1,000 people have now been confirmed. Okay, anytime we see these even numbers, it's fake. These people always report everything in even numbers. So be on the lookout for the monkeypox virus. The monkeypox vaccine. They already got it on deck for everybody. Be on the lookout for more of these that's going on. The mass shootings, they're going to continue with that because they want the people not to have any arms. Right? They want to be able to pass legislation so the people can't bear arms. So be on the lookout for this. Make sure y'all get your trust set up. Put your arms in your trust. Let your family's estate manage your arms, Islam, under your religious, divine creed and principles.
She talking that talk, Morris. Wake up, you sleepy-headed Morris. What she just say?
Don't be fooled. Come on now, a mass shooter in Philly. They out here doing the most. At the mass shooter, remember the first one they announced where he was in New York on the train. So far we had New York, we got Pennsylvania, we had Texas, Buffalo, again, New York again. Shootings in 3 American cities killed 9 people and wounded 24 more on Saturday night and Sunday morning. the latest outbreaks of gun violence in the wake of 3 mass shootings that have rattled the United States. Okay, so they're continuing to call these things mass shootings, right? And they don't say anything about wanting to pass any legislation about these mass shootings until it's no longer in what they consider as the hood, right? Because look at this. Chicago shootings, 47 shot, 9 fatally over Memorial Day weekend. They're not trying to pass no federal legislation. And this actually was less than what it normally is. And the reason why it was less than what it normally is because most of a lot of those who live in Chicago have moved out of Chicago. So you have a smaller population now. Most Chicagoans are in Atlanta right now, they're in Miami, they're in Texas. So this is actually a good thing. 47 shot. But you think they passing legislation because everybody is dying in the hood every day? No. They don't care about that. All they're gonna do is just do what they're doing right now, a press release about how many got shot, how many died. Yeah, Allah be pleased to the brothers and sisters who lost their lives over Memorial Day weekend.